And today on Mana at the Table, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Geraldine Hughes, acclaimed actress, producer, philanthropist, playwright, and proud Belfast woman, whose life story is one of resilience, courage, and extraordinary creativity. From her childhood in West Belfast during the Troubles to an acclaimed career on stage and screen. Geraldine brings a powerful voice shaped by lived experience, storytelling, philanthropy, and a deep sense of identity. Geraldine, welcome.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. Goodness.
So well deserved. We're absolutely thrilled to have you. I mean, and I know how busy you are, so thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your story and talk about film and the arts.
Well, thanks very much for thinking about me. I'm always very pleased when someone thinks I'm worthy of an interview.
Oh, you're more than worthy, Geraldine.
No, I am. Yes.
Yes, come on now. Yes. Yeah. So maybe, Geraldine, we're going to go all the way back. You know, you grew up in Belfast in the Divis Flats. So take us back to the young Geraldine in Belfast.
Well, a time long ago, many years ago, in 1971, a wee girl was born. I was born right into the middle of the wee bit of trouble, as we like to refer to it as. I was born in a street called Country Road in West Belfast, and I think it was about 4 when we moved to Divis Flats, which was at the time the worst housing project in Europe. So sort of born into the wee row houses with the outside toilet, and my mommy always talks of those days as the best days of her life. You know, it was community and family and playing on the streets and all that. I mean, there was a war going on at the same time, but um, and then we moved to Divis Flats, which was a terrible place to grow up in, to be honest. And I was there till I think it was about 10, maybe. So really, my youth was in the middle of that chaos, and then we upgraded to a house by the Peace Wall, about 10 minutes walk away, and my mommy still lives on that street, not in the same wee house, but I mean, our house was here and the Peace Wall was here. Do you know? I mean, it was literally a stone throws away. So it was a very tumultuous and chaotic childhood, to say the least. You know.
And did you feel, Geraldine, is it now looking back, you said it was chaotic, or did you feel that it was chaotic growing up?
Do you know, Martina, I was a very I suppose upon reflection, I think about myself as a wee girl, you know, and I think about that wee girl, and I always knew that I didn't belong. Not that I didn't belong, but I wanted something more than what this was. I knew that this wasn't normal. We were acting as if it was normal. You had to get on with your lives. Oh my, sorry. My husband is calling me.
Does that your husband realize you're doing such an important interview today?
Wait, I'm going to take this call.
Yes, absolutely. Go
Connor, I'm in the middle of a podcast, which you're now on. There he is, Connor, my Galway husband, Martina Curtin, who apparently met you in Boston in a lift.
No, in New York at one of Martina Wheeler's events.
I did have my do not disturb on, but you are the exception to that rule, and I love you so much, and I'll ring you back. Okay, I love you. Okay, bye. Sorry, he's actually in Ireland at a service for a family member who's passed away.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have do not disturb on, but he can call through, so you can keep that on. He'll be delighted.
Well, it's Connor, so we're going to.
Like, why is my phone ringing? I'm better than this. Anyway, I don't know what the hell I was talking about, but life happens, and that's my husband, and I love him, and
yes,
you know, I could leave it in.
Yeah.
I was talking about when I was wee and not fitting in and all that,
Yes.
and not feeling. Do you know? Yeah, I I was a dreamer as a child, you know, And I was also very religious.
Okay.
And I found that in the chaos of, you know, bombs going off, soldiers raiding the house, living in Divis flats where, then hunger strikers were dying and the banging of lids and
Oh,
walking to school and hoping you didn't get shot by a sniper. These are thoughts that I am having as a child every day. And at the same time, knowing that there's something better out there, there's got to be hope. And then there was St. Peter's Cathedral, which is just up the street. And I'd go there all the time because I felt like, well, there's nobody to talk to about this, so I can go talk to him, and I would have these wee statues in my room, and I'd talk to the statues that have Mary, and there was St. Anthony, I think, and who was the other one? I forget who the other one was. But I suppose that was the beginning of me playing different characters because I would talk to them and then they'd talk to me, and it was company. And I know that might sound very strange to people, but as a wee child, I sought comfort in
mhm.
that and got comfort in that, knowing that, believing then that there was someone who was listening to me and I was going to be protected. Yeah, I haven't thought about that for a long time, but
And probably it was probably a way of escaping too, Geraldine, being,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, but then you talk about school. Talk to us a little bit about.
I loved school. Oh, I loved school. I loved primary school. So I went to Slate Street, St. Joseph Slate Street, which is a primary school that still exists, not in the same form. It's a new building, but it's still there. And I try and support them when I can because very underprivileged. Uh, School there with kids, a lot of needs. But Slate Street was on a wee street, and there were regular houses opposite, and didn't have a playground or anything. We used to. I sound like. I mean, it's just true. It's terrible to.
How
But
it was.
yeah, there was a street, and that's where we'd play. We didn't have a playground, but there was roof. There was a roof space that apparently was supposed to be our playground. And I remember like the British Army would apparently call the school and give the principal the okay for us to be able to go up on the roof and play, just in case we were caught in crossfire. But the teachers in that school were just the best. And I loved school. I loved the structure of it. It gave me somewhere to go, made sure I had a really good hot meal in the middle of the day. We had the school dinners, which I loved. Still remember the sponge cake and the custard. And sometimes the custard was pink. And I was like, oh, I want to have pink custard today. I loved it. I remember we had copper mugs and cold water. And that was safety and comfort and literally nutrition. And then St. Louise's is where I went for secondary school. And that's where I really did all of the theatre and drama. And I was head girl, and I was in sixth form, and Sister Genevieve ran that school. And I, again, I just loved it. It was a safe place for me to go and, and knew that I was protected and had some fun too. God forbid a child should have some fun.
Children should be having fun.
Yeah, they should be.
And then was it you got a scholarship then to UCLA? Was that right after or high school?
Yeah, well, a big event happened when I was 13. So an American production company came to Ireland in 1984, and they were looking for 4 kids to star in a movie of the week called Children in the Crossfire. Long story short, the nun sent me to this audition because I was a good girl, and cut to I got the part. So I was plucked out of West Belfast and living by the Peace Wall, thrown into Los Angeles,
Oh wow.
shot a film, plucked from there back to Dublin to shoot all the Belfast scenes, and then I found myself back in my wee house by the Peace Wall with the war still going on, and I thought, oh, do you know what? That's an interesting thing. That's how I can escape. Maybe I can go to Los Angeles. So, you know, secondary school happened, kept in touch with the director and the producers of that wee film, wrote letters all the time. I loved writing letters back and forth for years. And they said, if you stay out of trouble, and you keep up with your studies, we'll pay for your university. So I applied to UCLA and got in, and they paid for my classes. So I was 18 years old and went to Los Angeles, not knowing anything about life, and had to work to live and pay for. I mean, mad. There was no internet then, there was no, couldn't phone home, couldn't FaceTime. It was letters. And when I did phone home, it was, my mommy would say, "Is this costing me money?" Like, no, I think it's costing me money. I mean, it feels like ancient times now when you think about that, but it was a really, really difficult time. And my father had passed away 6 months before. So, and there was no peace agreement then. It was 1989. So it was, I mean, I think about that 18-year-old, and how she had to do that, and how much time I spent alone, but still keeping the dream of there is something better. I
Oh,
just knew it. I just knew it. I just knew that my life would become bigger and brighter and more successful, and I was I was going to get there, and I knew it was going to take a long time. I don't know how I knew all this as a child, but it did. And I kept that focus.
how did you feel leaving home, Geraldine? Did you think, will I ever see my mom again or my?
I was shattered. I was completely shattered. I was leaving this wee council house. My mummy was standing at the door, and I was sort of going to the moon. I was going to another planet. I was going to another place that was so far away. Um, it was just crazy to me that this was actually going to happen. So it was extremely difficult. But again, you know, I knew that I knew I would be okay.
And I suppose there was probably, was there that little 13-year-old, you knew it, you had got, knew there was something as bigger and better out there for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that gave me such hope. And I had such support, from my drama teacher, Fidelma McVeigh at the time was her name, and she was amazing. And, everyone sort of said, go follow your dream, even though, I mean, they must have been terrified for me as well. But yeah, there was still a war going on, and my mommy still had I had a younger sister, and I've three older brothers and an older sister as well. So big enough family. But my father, I think she was still trying to recover from that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot to process for,
Mm.
for an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So you arrive, Geraldine, in UCLA, a
Mhm.
little different from West Belfast.
Yeah. Just a wee bit.
A wee bit, right? A
But
little.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't drive in LA, you have to be able to drive, so I would take and I was living in the valley, as they call it. So UCLA is over on the west side, so you have to go over one of these canyons to get to it. So if you're driving it, well, then it would probably take about half an hour or so, but I didn't have a car, so I would take a bus. I think it left about 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I'd be on campus, by 7 or whatever, no matter what time my classes started. So yeah, it was crazy time, and then I eventually got a wee job on campus, and then a year later, um, I got a job as a nanny. So I became a nanny for Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman,
Oh,
and
wow.
I worked and lived with them on the weekends. So I would go to school full time and then be with them Friday night through Monday night. So I didn't have a social life.
Mhm.
I wasn't able to go out with the drama students and stuff on the weekend. So I really missed that college experience. But I had to pay to live. So that job was a godsend, and they were a godsend. They became a second family to me.
And then I'm sure, Geraldine, also, culturally, I mean, it's so different. Belfast.
Yeah, I mean,
How did you find that?
I mean, everything was crazy and different, and some of it was wonderful, and some of it was I just didn't quite know what to make of it, because this was a very solo journey again. I didn't have FaceTime or text with friends. I was completely alone here. And I changed my accent a wee bit as well, because
Talk
people,
to me about that and why, Geraldine.
yeah, I mean, my sense of identity was, I was like, what am I? Who am I? How do I talk? So, I sort of started talking a little bit, this. I remember people saying to me, where's your Irish accent? I'd be like, well, I do have an Irish accent. I'd be like, what? Because I was also embarrassed. I was embarrassed about it. There was a thing about being from the north and being from the south of Ireland that was very different then. And people would say, oh my God, did you grow up with like green fields and like, did you have like all of that? And I couldn't begin to tell them, no, I grew up in a crappy, poverty ridden, war torn environment because that just seemed really boring and heavy. So I would just go, yeah, yeah, and pretend sometimes, because it was just easier. So yeah, that was something that was just the whole notion of trying to fit in and being embarrassed about, which of course I am not anymore. But as an
Oh,
18-year-old, it was just like I can't tell them that's where I'm from, you know.
oh.
And
And
they
it
were
was a time too, Geraldine, whereas it's different now. We're all about being our authentic self and
yes,
talking about exactly where you come from. So, I mean,
yeah.
back then, it goes back to what you were saying. You wanted to fit in and
Yeah. And the awareness of the world, like
mm,
today we have the internet. So everybody
yeah,
sees everything. You
yeah,
can go visit any place in the world on Instagram in 2 seconds and see
yeah.
what it's like. But people in Belfast didn't know. They think, oh, she living in a mansion, is she? Oh, and she's working for movie stars. And there was this whole sort of idea of what I felt like I had to live up to. Um, yeah, it was strange. And now is like a woman in her mid 50s who's you know, so proud of how I speak and where I'm from. And it took a really long time for that to kick in. I think probably when I met Connor
Mm.
17 years ago, he's from Galway, Connemara man. And I maybe a little bit before that when I moved to New York, I felt like, right, okay, well, I can sort of be my more authentic self here in
Why
LA.
do you,
I
what,
just
what do
can't.
you think was the turning point, Geraldine? I mean, meeting Connor, but then what light bulb went off?
Do you know, I think when I wrote my play, Belfast Blues, I wrote that and performed that originally in Los Angeles. And I think that was 2003, I think. Yep. I think something like that, which is a long time ago now. But that was when I began to feel like, oh, I can talk about this now. I can share this and I can be who I am. However, when I moved to New York, I have never felt more celebrated or more welcomed about who I am and where I'm from. And when I brought my play to New York in 2005, I believe, the support and the love that I received,
From
and
the
then
diaspora.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. And I was celebrated and welcomed, and people said, how can we help you? We'll bring 30 people. We'll introduce you to the ambassador. We'll bring the Irish consulate. I was, what? And there was a little bit of that in LA, of course, but it's a
Yes.
more concentrated world here. It's a small island. And it felt like the village that I missed. I missed that sense of the Irish village and people helping people. And I felt like I could look how I looked. I didn't have to have mince for meals and weigh 90 pounds. You know, I could actually be me, and I felt attractive and I felt worthy. And I thought, oh, the East Coast. And you're also that much closer to Ireland as well,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
you know? So yeah, it was just this joyful celebration of me. And I thought, right, okay, well, this feels different and this feels kind of fantastic.
It was almost like a coming home, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly how it felt. Yeah.
Did you have any reservations, Geraldine, about, putting yourself out there, in Belfast Blues?
I did, and I did, yes. And especially, I'm playing I'm telling my story.
Hmm.
my perspective, I never once thought I could talk about how my sisters or my
Mm-hmm.
brothers felt. However, I was playing my father and I was playing my mother, and my father was gone now, and I knew that he'd be proud of me no matter what.
Yeah.
And I did feel like it was important that my mommy see it. So I flew her over to LA with my sister, one of my sisters, and they came to see it. And I was absolutely, didn't know what she would think of it. And at the end of it, she came up to me and I said, Mommy, is it okay? Is it okay? And she went, Is it okay? She goes, It's fucking brilliant. Excuse my French. She goes, "It's fucking brilliant." She goes, Sally Field's here. Sally Field. Sally Field's here. And I was like, okay, calm down. All right. It's
What about
okay.
Geraldine on the stage?
She went, It was brilliant. I said, Mommy, is it okay what I say about you? And how she goes, Oh, it was brilliant. Sally Field is here. Okay. So
Ah,
from that moment on, and then the second permission I needed to have was to take it home. So I brought it back to Belfast not long after that, the following summer, I think, for the Féile and Vogel. And people came in droves, and the feedback and the talkbacks were, I feel very emotional even thinking about that. So they
mm,
go ahead, tell your story, tell it everywhere. This is brilliant. You're putting us on the map. It's your story, it's your perspective. And busloads of Protestants came, and it was just fantastic. So after that, I felt, well, I can tell this story anywhere, and I am proud to tell it.
that's great.
So that's what I did.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then, Geraldine, talking about being at home, I know you've done other work at home too. The Beacon. Talk is your
Yeah, I just went, I did a play last summer at the Everyman in Cork,
okay.
day in Cork, um, which is, apparently you can see Ireland from Cork. That's what I've been told. Um, and boy, you can actually see Ireland from Cork. And I loved it. I loved the people, and Des Kennedy, who's the new artistic director of the Everyman Belfast Boy.
Mm-hmm.
It was an usher for Belfast Blues when I did it at the Opera House, and who then became one of the directors of Harry Potter, which I was in the original Broadway cast of that. So Des rang me up and said, "Can you want to play the lead role in The Beacon?" I was like, "Des, you call me and ask me to do a job, I say yes." So that was great crack. I had great fun. And yeah, it was an interesting thing going home to do a play that wasn't Belfast Blues. I haven't done a play in Ireland in a very long time, and I was delighted. And Nancy Harris, who wrote it, I mean, she writes The Dry, and she's
Yeah.
brilliant, fierce, beautiful woman. So I got to hang out with her and be with her, and it was just really magical. And I want to do more of that. I want to go home and work and theater and film and TV. I want to, it's a goal of mine now to keep going back and working there.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, it's really, I mean, Ireland is really, I suppose, having a moment, right, with all that's going with Jessie Buckley and
It's having a few moments, Martina. It's having
Right.
moment after moment after
Mm.
moment. I mean, it's been happening now for quite a few years, but yeah, I mean, Oscar winners and
Yeah.
TV shows and film,
Mm.
and Belfast being the north of Ireland being one of the most brilliant places to go
Right.
shoot anything, film studios
Yeah.
being built. And I think about when I left there when I was 18, and it's like it's not even the same. It's not the same place.
No, no. I mean, and it's great that it's the island of Ireland too that's been recognised, Geraldine.
Yeah,
Yeah. In
yeah,
theatre, in
exactly.
movies and
Yeah.
theatre, yeah, and the art. Um, you have quite the resume, Geraldine, actress, writer, producer. I
Mm.
mean, explain to us kind of going back and forth. I mean, do you have a favorite or
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, yes, the producing thing was something I was a real dream of mine. And I had optioned a few scripts and have been shopping them around for years. And
Yes.
one of them I had optioned. And I knew when I read it that Liam Neeson should play Finbar. This is In the Land of Saints and Sinners, which
Yeah.
you can watch now, I think, on Prime Video.
Okay.
And when COVID hit, I mean, I had sent it to Liam a few years before, and he called me immediately and said, I love this. And so once I could attach his name to it, that made things much easier.
Mhm.
But I was determined when COVID hit. I said, well, what am I going to do with all this time? And so I said, I'll get this movie made. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. However, I've learned many, many, many lessons about myself, about the business, seeing how how the sausage is really made, how things really get done, and was great information for me as an actor.
Mhm.
To know that when you do those self tapes, when you have those meetings and you say, yeah, I definitely got that part, there are many other factors that go into why you didn't get it.
Mhm.
So that was brilliant for that, and I'm proud that that movie exists and that my name is on it, and
Yeah.
I was the reason why it got made, and and then my husband and I executive produced a wee film called The Last Rifleman with Pierce
Oh,
Brosnan.
no, yes.
Yeah, so we really wanted that to get made.
Yeah.
Um, but after those were done, I realized how much I missed acting.
Okay. Okay.
I really, really missed it. And so now that's my focus. I mean, certainly if something comes across my table
Right.
I love and I want to produce, I'll do that. But
Yeah.
um acting is where it's at for me right now.
Okay. Okay. More on the film or TV? I mean, you've done a lot of TV as well.
Yeah, everything. I mean, I
Yeah.
really love theater. I really love being in a company of actors and telling a
Mhm.
story on stage for audiences. I made a wee film a couple of years ago upstate New York where I live. It was a short film, an adaptation of one of James Joyce's short stories, and I love that. I think it's really important. I mean, yeah, I just listen, at this point, if I can have control over the team I work with,
Right.
you know, we mostly don't have that control. So when you go on to do these big TV and film projects, you don't really know what you're getting into. So, um, not that I'm going to say no to those, um, but I love telling great stories with a great group of people who I can trust and have great crack with.
Okay. And
Yeah.
probably be vulnerable and
Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, I think that's why great directors always work with the same crews. And,
Okay.
like Clint Eastwood has worked with the same crews, and Kenneth Branagh, I know, does the same thing.
Mhm.
You collect that community, that village.
Right.
And then if you can keep working with those people, and I suppose that's why a lot of directors work with the same actors as well, because they know what they're going to get and they trust it. But yeah, I love the theater. And I think, look, ideally, recurring role on a TV show that shoots in New York or Canada,
Okay.
or
All
series regular on a great show in Ireland, or maybe a film a year in Ireland, a great play in between. I basically want Kieran Hines's uh, career.
right.
Kieran is a good friend. Kieran Hines has the career. He could be at the home place reading poetry one day and he's shooting a Marvel film the next week, and as humble and as beautiful a human being you'll ever meet. So yeah, Kieran, dear
Okay.
Kieran,
Okay.
rub
I
some
hope
of that
that child,
magic.
child is still okay. You talk about being humble, Geraldine. I mean, you're just, so regular. I mean, would you say to, I guess young people starting out?
I just don't have time for that crap.
Okay.
I really don't have time for it. I understand that kids can get caught up in all that
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
but I can smell a narcissist as soon as they walk in the room. I will gracefully bow out of conversations or remove myself or try and protect myself. And it is, listen, y- you know, I never had a team, now these young up and coming sort of all these actors, they all have teams, PR, lawyer, all this stuff. They've great. But that just was never what I wanted either. I have to say that as well. It was never my cup of tea. I could have gone down that road. I could have done some things that, would have furthered my career. I wasn't interested in doing that. And really love who I am today. And but I appreciate the influence, especially now social media, and people need so many followers and they need to keep up with the self promotion. It. That sounds to me like the most exhausting, uncreative thing, you know. And in terms of egos and narcissism, and you know, this sort of falls in nicely to talk about the play I'm doing right now in New York, which is about that. There's an element. It's called Ulster American by David Ireland at the Irish Rep.
Mm.
And it's about that. It's about a Hollywood movie star, a celebrity who's come to do a play in London, and what you actually end up putting up with in a
Yeah.
conversation or in the room. You sort of think, "Wow, did he just say that?" Well, I just let that slide because I mean he has won an Oscar. He is, Um, all of that for me as Geraldine in real life is terribly it's not that I'm unimpressed by it, but it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm the one at the parties talking to the woman in the kitchen, because I love people and I think everybody's beautiful and interesting and I have a curiosity about everybody. And yeah, that I sort of get starstruck by people who do great things in the world. Um, and I suppose I met so many people, so many stars in Hollywood because being a nanny and with Danny and Ray, so many movie stars would come
Right.
through the house and, you know, and very few of them I sort of was like, oh my God. I mean, I remember I was in the kitchen making guacamole. There was a big party going on at the house, and I was making guac and chips for the kids. And John Travolta came in, um, and asked me if I could make him guacamole, and I was like, "No, make it yourself. I'm not the help. I'm actually making guacamole and chips for the kids. The avocados are in the fridge, and
Okay.
away you go." It was like I just. There's a part of you who grew up in West Belfast that never leaves you either.
Yeah.
I sort of know that, just because you're John Travolta, I'm not going to make you guacamole. Um, you know,
So I
no,
suppose if yeah, a title, whatever, your doesn't change you.
no. I mean, celebrities are just people who
You
have,
feel yeah,
people. A lot of people know who you are,
right.
and there are great actors doing incredible things
Mhm.
every single day in little black box theaters that no one
That
sees.
you're
No,
yeah, yeah. You talk about the Ulster American, and that's on at the Irish Rep Theatre, and
yeah,
they've been very supportive, Geraldine, of Irish and Irish Americans,
yeah.
uh, actors and playwrights throughout the years. You know, is there anything more or more supports you'd like to see for people in the industry or people starting off?
Um, I mean, it's a huge question, and
Yeah. Well,
I think, look, in terms of
yes.
the Irish Rep is my favorite place in New York. It's my favorite theater. I've been there for, I think, 37, 38 years and support, like you say, support Irish actors and Irish writing. Um, Now new Irish writing, which I'm very proud of them that they're beginning to embrace the new voices like David Ireland. And we have a sold out run. From the first week of previews, those tickets were flying off the shelves. I mean, unbelievable. And you feel like you're home there. You're respected. There's a sense of family. Um, but in terms of support, yeah, I mean, there's always room for more money for the arts.
Yeah.
What did everybody do during COVID? They watched Netflix. They watched theater on screens. They needed escapism. We need to continue to tell stories and be artists and actors and create beautiful pieces of theater and we're not robots. And so we need to be paid and we need to be covered by health insurance in America. And we need to be acknowledged that we're not just puppets. This is actually our livelihood.
Yeah.
This is, when you go to museums, I mean, whatever form of art it is, I think some people look at art and artists as like, oh yeah, that's like a little wee thing that they do. It's actually a calling. Like when kids say to me, I think I might want to be an actor, I say to them, well, want and need are two different things.
Mm.
So if you wake up and you can do something else, please do it, because this is really hard and it's mostly about rejection. But if you need to do it, then you will find things that will feed your soul, you know?
And I suppose just to be prepared that, as you say, that there is the rejection
Yeah.
along the.
I mean, it's 99% rejection. I mean, it is. I mean, y- you go, and especially now, there's this in our industry, you used to go to a casting director and
Okay.
go into a room and read for them. And there was an interaction. And now everything is self tape, including for theater jobs.
Okay.
So you have to self tape. So you're reading with a husband, or you're a neighbor or a friend, and it's crazy to me. And it happened during COVID. So, but what that has done is that has opened up for a whole other world of actors. It's opened up access. So you don't have to live in New York. You don't have to live in LA. You
Yeah.
can live anywhere and send in your self tape. So it does mean that many more people have the opportunity, but it also means that the pool is much, much
Much,
bigger.
much bigger.
So
Okay.
the competition is,
Yeah.
fierce, even more fierce.
Yeah. Well, for sure. So there's pros and cons, right?
Yeah, with everything. Yeah. But
With
if you
everything.
love doing it, then keep doing it. I think it's the most magical thing in the world. I get to go play 7 shows a week at the Irish Rep in New York City in the springtime in Manhattan, and it's nothing better, you
All
know?
right. Yeah. So what's for you after that, Geraldine? After.
Well, I'm going to
Right.
go straight to Ireland
Oh,
for a week of R&R. We have a house in Carlingford, so I'm going to go meet my new little grand nephew who's going to be born
oh,
any minute. My lovely niece Fiona and her fiance Jessica. They're going to be wonderful moms. And then I'm supposed to. There's a rumor that I might be doing something in the theater in Ireland in this summer, but I can't really
okay.
talk about that
Okay.
yet.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and
We'll
then
stay tuned, everyone.
yeah, big news. And then possibly, I'm slated to go to India for a
Oh,
little bit
wow.
to do a role in a film that someone just called me about. But that would be brilliant if it happened. But otherwise, I am open and available for you know whatever any of those wonderful Irish directors want me for.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but that's the thing. It's feast or famine. I
Right.
love, I love my life. I love my upstate life with Connor and my dogs, and we have these other businesses as well.
Yes.
We're owners of the Dead Rabbit, and
Yes.
you know, we have very, very happy with sort of the big
Yeah.
life that we have. But
Yeah.
I also like a nice quiet time with friends and my family, and
Yeah.
you know, and lifting weights.
Yeah, okay. Which
Women
is important now for
gotta
women.
lift
Yes.
weights.
Yes. Yes.
That's the thing. Keep that in. All women of a certain age, actually start in your 30s, start lifting heavy shit. It will help you. It helps the brain, the menopause brain, helps the body. It's fantastic. I love
Yeah.
it.
The young 30-year-olds, they'll be doing the work now, not like us. We're catching up.
I know, exactly. Yeah. Better
Yeah.
late than ever, though.
True, Geraldine. Before I let you go, Geraldine, you talked about education, you talked about Slade Street School,
Yeah.
and I know an organisation that is extremely close to your heart
Yeah.
is the Irish American Partnership and our great friend Mary Sugro.
hmm
So talk to me a little bit about, the partnership and why you support it.
Mary Sugru is one of my favorite people on the planet. She is
Yeah.
a quiet, beautiful, strong woman who does incredible work through this partnership. So the Irish American Partnership, I'm a a patron of the Integrated Education Fund in the north of Ireland, and whatever charitable contributions I make to that, I go through the Irish American Partnership, who have honoured me with Nollaig Man twice, which is crazy,
Yeah, you were in Boston, right?
in Boston and in
Yeah.
DC.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and Connor and I have a little award, sort of a bursary that we set up about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even more than that now, for the set up in the Integrated Education Fund, and we go through Mary for that. They're called the Lincoln Awards, so we sponsor approximately 10 kids who have gotten into further education, and they receive a bursary as a hand up. So they come from backgrounds that don't necessarily, they wouldn't have the funds for anything from food to accommodate. They can use it for whatever they want. We had a great letter from a girl one time, said, "I had such a great time. I went out for cocktails with my friend," and you know, brilliant.
Yeah.
So these kids who really don't have much. So we go everything charitable that we go through the Irish with Irish American Partnership, because it is a very quiet organization that does incredible work, and they help so many schools around Ireland. You see the list of schools they sponsor, including Slate Street School in West Belfast.
That's great. That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we love Mary here in Boston. I mean,
Yes.
it's such grassroots, you know. I mean, the work she does. Um,
Yes.
that's
And
great.
100% of what you
Yes.
give goes, and you see that it goes straight
Yeah,
to that place and that school. And yeah, forever and a day we will be working with them.
that's great. No, they do phenomenal work. Well, Geraldine, this has been absolutely fabulous. You're so gracious with your time, and we can't wait to see what's next for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martina.